The Labor Relations Act brought about a number of key changes, significant changes that one can indeed write home about. The first one was the basic freedom of association and organizational rights are now guaranteed in this piece of legislation. Agency shops are now provided for. I mean, we never used to have agency shops in the past. All we had, was a situation where there was a closed shop policy. And with regard to the closed shop policy, it meant that when you join a company, and if a company has a recognition agreement with Union A as a new employee, you would automatically become a member of that particular union. So, the freedom of association, was really not taken into consideration at all. So you were forced, to actually join that union because it was indeed the closed shop agreement. But with the agency shop, it really is different in the sense that, there are unions that are recognized, and those unions that are recognized, if you become a member of that union, that is recognized, that is, you do not pay an agency fee. An agency fee would only be paid by employees who are not members of the recognized unions. But if you are a member of a union that is not recognized, which is a smaller union, okay, and it is not recognized, then obviously you would then have to pay, the agency fee over and above the subscription fee that your union would require you to pay. So this agency shop issue, it's a new concept that came about as a result of this new legislation. The reformed bargaining rights, these bargaining rights were reformed, completely reformed. Now, majoritarianism favored, so the new concept of majoritarianism was introduced. Now, why was it introduced? It was introduced because government did not want a proliferation or a multiplicity of unions in the workplace. They really wanted, bigger unions that would actually speak with one voice, that would represent, the employees, with management, from time to time. Now, this created a situation where smaller unions that operated in a workplace, clapping together, coming together, for them to be able to ensure that they are able to speak with one voice, negotiate at the bargaining council, at the provincial bargaining council, as well as the national bargaining council, as a bigger union rather than smaller unions, because there was indeed a threshold in the sectorial bargaining council. The threshold there was 30,000. Now, it meant that, if a union had less than 30,000 members, it would not be able to represent its members in the Public Health and Social Development and Sectoral Bargaining Council. Okay, so it needed to have, more than 30,000 members for it to be able to represent, its members. Now, in the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council, which really is the National Bargaining Council, for the public service in particular, you needed to have, a threshold of 50,000 members. So if you do not have 50,000 plus members, you really cannot, represent your members. So assuming you have 49,000 members and you are short of 1,000 members, so you needed to negotiate, with another union that is smaller that operates in the same sector for you to be able to make the threshold of 50 plus, so that you are then able to represent your members at the National Bargaining Council. By the way, any union worth its salt would want to represent its members in both the sectoral bargaining council as well as the National Bargaining Council. Another key change that came about as a result of this legislation, statutory councils were introduced. What are statutory councils in this context? That is, statutory councils are councils that are created or established in a situation where there are no bargaining councils. So both the employees, the unions, as well as the employers would actually come together. They would, negotiate that statutory councils be established. If there is indeed an agreement to that effect, statutory councils would then be established, particularly in situations as I've indicated, where there are no bargaining councils. Introduction of workplace forums. Now, we've never had workplace forums in the past. And now, in this new legislation, we now have workplace forums. But the unions in South Africa are really not particularly keen in going along, with the establishment of these workplace forums. And one of the reasons that they give is that in these forums, non-union members are included when meetings with management do take place. And they feel that as unions, their presence, their powers are being watered down. And as a result, most of them do not want to have anything to do, with workplace forums. The right to strike is strengthened. Remember, we spoke about this earlier when we said, in the Constitution, the right to strike is enshrined, but in the then Labor Relations Act, the right to strike was non-existent, and now it is indeed strengthened. The strikes over most dispute of right regulated. Now, I think it is important to understand exactly what we mean by a dispute of right. What the difference is, between the dispute of right and a dispute of interest. Now, a dispute of right comes about as a result of the right that you as an employee, would be given to in terms of the Labor Relations Act, in terms of the Constitution, in terms of the collective agreement that the union would have entered into with management. If any of the clauses that guarantee you that particular right are violated, then you have the right to declare a dispute of right. Now, on the other hand, a dispute of right relates to if the union comes up with a demand of a salary increase, say of 20%, we're giving that as an example. And if the employer, refuses to give you that 20% increase, and you declare a dispute, that kind of a dispute would be referred to as a dispute of interest. Because when you get employed, I mean, I don't think there's an employer that would say to you, you're getting employed today, and on a yearly basis, you will get a salary increase of 20%. I don't think there is indeed such an employer who would actually give you that kind of a guarantee. But in a situation where you then declare a dispute, as I said, that kind of a dispute would be referred to as a dispute of interest. Now, sympathy strikes regulated. Yes, of course. I mean, you definitely can go on a strike, in sympathy with, your other, colleagues or comrades, and in the other sectors, or maybe in the same sectors. And that is regulated. That really is regulated. And the right to picket, that is introduced as well. So you definitely do have the right, to picket.